Welcome, friends and listeners, Brandon Inquisitors. I'm Jake.
I'm Jax. We're your TO talkers. Join us this week as we dive into the copper mines.
Welcome back, guys.
We're back.
Elantris episode 2.
Episode 2.
We're hyped. I'm hyped. You hyped?
I'm hyped.
We're hyped. You hyped?
Are you waiting for a response?
I was asking the audience. I guess I shouldn't have been waiting for a response, but
Thank you guys so much for joining us again. This for us is week 2. We sent our first 3/4 episodes in week 1. So this is our second week recording. We're excited to be back. It's become a lot more real for us.
yeah.
And we're realizing how much time goes into like editing and whatnot. But
Yeah.
we're hoping to get more on a schedule where that's not so burdensome. So for anybody trying to follow us along on YouTube,
We're a little behind on YouTube. We both work full time. I have a family. Jax has a girlfriend. I don't know if you wanted that out there.
no, it's fine.
We have lives outside of this. This is definitely a hobby
Right.
podcast. So forgive us.
Yeah.
Give us some lenience. We're working on getting caught up on YouTube, and but we're pretty set on our Spotify audio listener schedule. Those
Those
will
will be
always
dropping
out on
every
time.
Monday. And as soon as we get caught up on YouTube, we should get to a point where we can release those weekly as well.
Yeah.
But trying to get all 3 of the first episodes edited and like ready to go
in a week.
was just too much for us with everything
Yeah.
else we've got going on. So
Yeah.
thank you for your patience and grace there.
And thank you guys for all the support that we've been getting on our TikTok, on our Spotify, even on our YouTube, even though we're behind there. Like it's becoming more real. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh, people are actually going to be listening to this and like watching this. And it's just been really cool just within the first week of like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Like,
Like we started this knowing that nobody might listen to us and we might be just talking into the air.
yeah.
And we were okay with that because this is something that we love to do. It's something we enjoy doing. But it's a lot more fun knowing that you guys are following along.
Yeah. And that will actually get people like asking questions for the Cosmere question of the week,
Yes.
which we have. Like,
we have this week.
we
Yeah.
didn't have to find our own question this week because someone actually commented and asked a question. And it's a really good question too. So be ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then last thing before we dive into the book, just so everyone knows, I don't think we really specified this in the earlier episodes, but we're not professionals. This is a hobby for us.
Yeah.
And
we have full-time jobs. We have lives. We're not... we haven't read every, words of Brandon that's out
Yeah.
there, or everything in the copper mine
Yeah.
for us to know everything about the Cosmere. And even, just going through this book, I know there's going to be things that we get wrong.
We have, in editing the episodes, I've pointed out, and if you guys have listened to the episodes, you know that future Jake is probably going to be a recurring character fixing our stumbles and what we get wrong within the episode. But just have patience with us. Even if future Jake doesn't catch the errors, I'm sorry. It's just how it's got to be.
Like, I even think last episode that we said that when Raoden went into Elantris, he turned left, and that was Sheor's territory. And that's not right. Left is Karada's territory. Right is Sheor's territory. So,
Yeah.
there's going to be small mistakes, and you guys are just going to have to give us some grace. And
Yeah. Hey guys, this is your episode spoiler warning. This week we talk about obviously Elantris, but also Stormlight Archive, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, Mistborn Era 1 and 2, as well as Mistborn Secret History. So if you haven't read any of those, this is your spoiler warner. Thanks. Back to the pod. But that being said, let's make more mistakes and jump into the book.
All right. Chapter 4.
Chapter 4. So if you listen to the previous episodes, you know that Brandon goes in order in this book. So we're always going to get a Raoden chapter, then a Sereni chapter, then a Hrathen chapter, at least until we get to the Sanderlanche.
At which point where you jump 5 or 6 perspectives within a chapter.
Within a page.
Yeah. So.
But getting into it, we have the Aeon at the top of this set of chapters, which is going to be Aeon Edo, which means protection or safety. Like as I was going through this chapter, I was really looking for a connection on like why did they put Aeon Edo at the top?
Right.
And I really just couldn't. I couldn't find anything specific.
Yeah, and what Brandon did is he put the same Aeon at the beginning of each triad of chapters. So
Yeah.
the first 3 chapters were all Aeon, meaning first, and then all 3 of this week's chapters are Aeon Edo. And the only thing I don't know would be Sereni finding Uncle Keine and
Sure.
that maybe being some protection and safety for her.
Sure.
Right at the end of Sereni's chapter, we kind of see her release a lot, and so that's kind of the only thing that I maybe found that could tie into the Aeon.
And I was thinking that maybe this would be the chapter that Raoden grabs Marishi and like protects him, but it's not. That's the next chapter. So I was kind of like, well, oh well. It doesn't quite fit these chapters. I don't know if there are specific reasons for the Aeons at the beginning of each triad.
One thing I did notice is that Aeon is the most basic Aeon, and Aeon Edo is probably the second most basic Aeon. So they might just be
like
increasing in complexity.
Sure. I'm trying to see.
For those of you listening along, Aeon Edo is basically just Aeon mirrored on itself diagonally. So you've got an Aeon in the bottom left corner, and then you've got a reverse Aeon in the top right corner, and they just kind of mirror each other. So
YouTube, it'll be right
It'll be right here.
It'll be right here. I don't know if that's really it. I was just skimming through the chapters to see if they get like more complex, and it's kind of just like
hit or miss.
You hit a point where it's like they're all kind of similarly complex until you get to like the really complex ones.
Yeah.
So
you know, maybe the title head Aeons are just as coincidental as the Aeons in people's names.
Yep. So yeah. Let's jump in. Shall we?
So we're back with Raoden. Like we said, this is a Raoden chapter. Right at the beginning, we have a line that just kind of introduces like what Raoden's life is like at the time. It says, the woman screamed until she grew too tired, calling for help, for mercy, for Domai. And says she clawed at the broad gate, her fingernails leaving marks in the film of slime.
Yep. So this is a woman that has just been thrown into Elantris.
Right.
She probably got taken by the Sheod the night before. And, you know, her reaction is not quite the same as Raoden's, but pretty similar in that they both kind of like try and get back out of the gate. So she eventually slumps to the ground because she's an Elantrian now. She gets tired pretty quickly. And we're from the perspective of Raoden, they're watching this woman, and this is where Galadon's kind of explaining the 3 gangs.
Right.
And the direction she chooses to step determines on which gang gets her sacrificial basket.
Yeah, we talked about that last week, how there's 3 gangs, and they don't really fight each other because any wounds that they deal to each other are just going to, you know, there's no point.
Yep.
And so it says she took a single uncertain step to her left,
which is Karada's
territory
direction. Yeah.
And so Galadon tells Raoden she picked well, or as well as one could.
Yep. So then she has a group of men approach her, and they basically just reach out, take her basket, and since the woman didn't have any strength left, she just, you know, felt collapsed to the ground. Which, interestingly, later in the book, it says that Karada goes personally.
Yeah, so Karada is, and it says here a group of men, so Raoden obviously just couldn't like see well, but we know that Karada goes personally and takes the tribute from each person who entered, like comes into her territory, which I think, you know, tells us a little bit about Karada, because we don't see Sheor doing that. Obviously, everybody in Elantris doesn't actually know what's going on with Sheor and their band. We're gonna get into that a little bit later in this chapter when we hear Galadon talk about it.
Yeah.
But Aendin, I also don't think is going and taking the tributes personally. And so Karada, I feel like from what we know about Karada, it's almost like she feels responsible. I that's not quite the right word, but she feels like if she's going to rob these people of their food, like
Mhm.
she needs to do it personally because it's a
Yeah.
personal matter, I think.
Yeah. And we get a little bit of insight about the woman that was just thrown in. Raoden's kind of looking at her, and he sees someone who's used to running a household. He sees a mother, basically.
Okay.
And he says, if such a woman could be defeated by Elantris, what hope was there for Raoden?
Yeah.
So one, some of Raoden's pessimism, but two, I wrote this is that this is very unlike his father, because we see in Serene's first chapter that King Iadon is
Yeah.
not very nice or doesn't think highly of women at all.
Right.
But here's Raoden basically saying, like, this woman is stronger than me.
Right.
And if she can't handle it, what hope do I have?
Yes.
And then I also wrote, because if you're on your reread, we know that Karada gets all the children that are thrown into Elantris, and her gang is all like parents. It's all people who love the children and are there to protect the children.
Right. Karada's people don't eat any of the food that they take.
No,
It all goes to the children.
All goes to the children. So I wrote a little thing saying, like, do you think they recruited this mother? And like the mother,
I don't know, like maybe later, because obviously they don't write here.
No, not right here.
But it does talk later about how picky Karada is about like people. But if you don't let anybody into your territory or don't talk to anybody, how do you ever find new members? So I'm sure maybe they did, because she seems like the perfect fit.
Yeah, we don't see her
ever
again.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we do when they go into Karada's territory later, but
not
pointed out.
Yeah, not pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that gives us a little insight into who Raoden is, right? We see the inner like pessimism, but it also says here that when they were taking her food, Galadon had to like grab Raoden and stop him from like going to like help this lady. And Galadon's like, dude, not a good idea. Like, they're kind, they're not gonna hurt, not kind, but they're not gonna hurt her.
Right.
But if you go in and try to interfere, they will hurt you, Suli. Like,
yeah.
So we see like Raoden's inner pessimism, but also his outer like heroism, I guess, or.
So Galadon goes on to talk a little bit more about the three gang leaders. And I don't think we did it in the previous episode, but each of them do have Aeons in their name.
Yeah, did we get introduced? I don't think we got introduced to their name.
Maybe not. I think we probably said their names.
Okay.
But it wasn't introduced on page, so I didn't have a note about it. But we have Sheor, which is Aeon Sheo, which means transformation or change.
Which we see in Sheod. We've already seen that one.
Yep. We have Aendin, which is Aeon Aeon? Aeon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means truth or fact, which is funny because Aendin right now is basically living a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't have any truth to him at the moment.
No, he's completely changed who he is. He's completely changed his personality, changed his name. Like, it's not his name. Aendin is not his name.
Yeah, so it's almost funnier that he chose Aendin as the name when it's a lie.
Yeah.
And it means truth. So kind of funny there.
Yes.
And then Karada is Ate, which is grace or smoothness.
Which I think fits Karada when
decently.
Obviously, she's an Elantrian right now, and there's some roughness that comes along with that. But we see when she's moving through the palace, how like graceful and smooth and like silent. She like Raoden is having a hard time being quiet, following Karada, who's opening all the doors, and he's just trying to move through these open doors, and she's being quieter than he is. So
that works for smoothness. I think grace kind of fits in that she like is taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
Like, she has some grace in that. So, yep, those are our three gang leaders.
Yep. And then we see some more from Galadon. He says when they're taking the bread away and he had to restrain Raoden, he said you don't want to get in there and get some wounds that'll haunt you for a couple of years, or like they're not going to cause her wounds that'll haunt her for a couple of years. And Raoden's like, couple years? Don't you mean eternity? Like we're, I thought you said we don't die. And Galadon says we only assume, or Raoden says, I thought you said our wounds would last for an eternity. And Galadon says, we only assume they will, Suli. Show me an Elantrian who has managed to keep his wits until eternity ends, and maybe he'll be able to prove the theory.
Yeah.
Which we actually know from words of Brandon that being an Elantrian is taxing even without the Riot.
Mm-hmm.
It's mentally taxing. Like Elantrians did choose to move on because it's mentally taxing to be an Elantrian. So while they are functionally immortal, you still have Elantrians die, you know, because they choose to move on.
Yeah. So he goes like, how long do people usually last in here? And Galadon said a year, maybe 2, which I marked in kind of question marks because if we're to believe Galadon's story, which we don't fully, he says he's only been in there a couple months, which means he wouldn't know how long people usually last if they've been in there longer than him.
Unless he's talked to people. But we also know that it's not true.
It's not true. He's been in there at least longer than 6 months.
Right. And it does mention, like Raoden mentions at some point when we do learn that like Galadon doesn't know about the fall of the Duladin Republic, Raoden mentions like Duladel's like timekeeping or like time estimations are typically off because they're more of a laid back people.
So it's maybe not like he's purposely lying,
right? And
more just like he doesn't actually know how to keep track of time.
Yeah, like he might have, and also he's in eternal damnation. So I imagine he's not counting the days. But I think he's been in there probably like maybe he's been in there 8 or 9 months or a year and just said a couple of months because that's, to him a couple of months.
Yep. And then Raoden had assumed that he had been in there a couple of years.
Yes.
Because he knows around the city so well. And the reason he knows like his way around the city is because he did live in Elantris pre-Riod and like lived there for, I assume, his whole childhood.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah.
So he has lived there for years, and that's why he knows his way around Elantris so well.
Yeah, and that's the first hint we get in that, like, something's not adding up with Galadon. It's like he moves around the city like he knows it, like he's lived here for decades.
Yeah.
So.
And then it does say in the next paragraph, Raoden looked back at the courtyard, but the woman had already gone, which means like she could have been recruited right there.
Okay.
If they came up, took her basket, and then maybe Karada was like, who are you? Like, because apparently this woman looks homely enough to look like someone who has ran a household, had children, all of that. So if Karada picked up on that, she could have been like, do you have kids? Blah, blah, blah. Seen like how this woman was.
Yeah.
And recruited her to the gang because I think she did.
Okay.
Personally.
That is Jake's headcanon is that this woman was recruited into Karada's gang.
Yep.
We then talk about, Raoden's like all of that for a loaf of bread, a loaf of stale bread and a few flaccid vegetables. And Galadon's like, yeah, the hunger's like, you don't know what the hunger's like. And Raoden's like, well, you handle it fine. And he's like, well, I've been here a couple months. Like, you don't know. He says, there's no telling what the hunger will drive me to do a year from now. And there we see a little bit of Galadon's outward pessimism.
Yep.
Because Galadon is a very pessimistic doula.
Yeah.
He is the only, like, and I'm sure there's others.
Yeah.
But the Duladels are painted as these
laid back,
cheerful, like exuberant type of people. And everybody who meets Galadon is like, why are you so pessimistic? Like, you're a doula, you should be happy. And so Galadon is like our one pessimistic doula, and we love him.
And it's probably because he didn't grow up in the Duladin Republic. He grew up in Elantris and then moved there and like farmed there for a decade maybe.
Yeah.
But he always said that like he never fit in there.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that he doesn't have the usual Dula laid backness.
Yeah. We also know that he probably gained a lot of his pessimism from his dad.
Yes.
So
So there's that. It goes on. They talk about the hunger a little bit, but then they get into the three gangs more. So this is our really like we're fleshing out the three gangs of Elantris chapter.
yeah.
And they're talking about where they're set up. So
Yeah, so we've got Shayor, who controls the market section.
Yep.
Karada is in the palace, and then Aendin is in the university section.
Yep. And then we learn that Aendin set up in the university because it had so many scrolls.
Yeah,
and they
scrolls and books, and Raoden gets excited. He's like, oh, a learned man.
But he ends up learning that yesterday's classics have become tomorrow's lunch, Colo. So Raoden's like, that's atrocious. Like all these, and honestly, knowing what we know about Elantris, it is atrocious. I wish we could have
I want to read those scrolls, bro.
learn from those scrolls because there's so much about Elantris's origin and the original Elantrians and,
Aondor.
pre-splintering devotion. How did Aondor work before then? And those scrolls probably had a lot of those answers.
Yeah.
So screw you, Aendin. And
basically what they've been doing is boiling the scrolls.
Yeah. And
eating them.
Terrible. Every time a timeline gets mentioned in the book, I'm going to point it out because Elantris' timeline is kind of iffy.
Okay.
So I'm hoping we can kind of piece stuff back together.
Are you talking like their timeline as it relates to the Cosmere, or like the timeline as the three perspectives relate to each other?
Neither. The timeline of Cell and like when stuff happened on Cell. So right here, Raoden says 2-century-old lambskin scrolls can't possibly taste very good. So I marked 2-century-old. So we know that Elantris, the city,
right,
has been around for at least 2 centuries.
Yes.
And then there's more in the other chapters we're going to get into, and we're kind of going to try and piece stuff together if we can.
Okay.
Because I would like to. And then here, Raoden is like, I'm surprised we haven't started eating each other.
Yes. And this was something that I pointed out as well, like the lengths that they went to, because Galadon then says, oh, we did. They did. He says, but something happens to Elantrian bodies during the Sheod.
Yeah.
He says, apparently, like, rotting corpses don't taste that good.
Yeah.
So nobody can keep it down. They've tried eating each other. They've tried the whole cannibalism thing, but you can't keep down the flesh of another Elantrian, which I just kind of like. I love Brandon's foresight on that because he knew people were going to bring it up.
Yep.
And I don't think Brandon wanted to write
cannibalism
into
book.
Like what he was doing. And so I love his foresight there of like, we're just going to like talk about this real quick because I know it's going to be a thing. They can't eat each other.
Yeah. We're not scared to talk about cannibalism here on the podcast, though. Do you think that non-Raod Elantrian flesh tasted better?
Maybe.
Because essentially it's just like invested flesh.
Yeah.
Highly invested flesh. Do you think like food, if it has more investiture in it, would taste better?
So I feel like that's, I mean, and I wrote some of this down later in the chapter and I want to get into it, but the reason why Elantris is falling apart, like the wood is falling apart, the stone is crumbling. It's only been 10 years. Raoden points this out that the Reod happened 10 years ago, and before that, this was a vibrant city. And now everything has investiture.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that everything around him is still, quote unquote, invested in a way, but having so much investiture and then going down to base level has just made everything deteriorate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say same thing for Elantrian bodies, to where they're worse than just a regular human because they just don't have that investiture.
Right. And there is like deep, like I dove into the copper mine for that section, and there is like a very, we're going to explain why that is.
Okay.
Like with actual stuff, like not just, oh, this is how it is. Anyways, so yes, no?
So yes, I
Okay.
think a regular Elantrian's body would taste better than a Ryota Elantrian's body.
Okay, investiture is tasty.
Yeah.
I think, like, at least Nightblood tells us that much.
Yeah, he does. Nightblood, and then the Larkin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, the Larkin. Okay, moving on. This is when Galadon is starting to take Raoden around Elantris and showing him the different territories. So the first one they go to is the market.
Yes. But right before they go there, they're talking about, I mean, they're still talking about like the hunger and everything.
Oh, yes.
And Raoden says, you talk about hunger and pain as if they are forces that can't be resisted. Anything is acceptable as long as the hunger made you do it. Remove our comforts and we become animals. And Galadon just shook his head, and we see Galadon's pessimism here, and he says, I'm sorry, Suli, but that's just the way things work.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see Raoden's outward optimism when he says, it doesn't have to be. And so this is kind of Raoden's like point of like, we can change, you know, like this isn't the way that things have to be. And that's just like some of Raoden's like power and just his like perspective on life of we can change things for the better. And we saw that when he was outside of Elantris, when he was talking, you know, with all of his friends about changing how everything was happening with the ruling class and all of that, trying to make things better for other people.
Yep. Yep. So pessimistic on the inside, optimistic on the outside.
Yes, sir.
That's our boy. So they're heading over to the market, and they're passing the Hoid.
Okay, yeah.
So the Hoid are people who have accrued enough injuries that the pain is too much for them.
Accrued.
What?
Accrued. Sorry.
Sure. What did I say?
Accrued.
Okay. Accrued. Thank you. Sorry. I'm gonna restart that.
Yeah,
Cut that out.
you can.
So the Hoid are Elantrians that have accrued enough injuries that the pain's too much for them, and their mind basically snaps.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be one big injury. It can just be like little stubbed toes.
Yep.
You know, stubbed toes, scratches over time. You end up just getting to enough pain that your mind just snaps and breaks.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody has ever been in enough, like any of you listeners have ever been in enough pain to where you passed out. But it's I feel like it's kind of that threshold right there, or enough pain where you like throw up just due to like pain.
Yep.
But it's all just constant. And so they don't just pass out, their mind just breaks.
Yep. And interestingly enough, I thought Hoid would be an Aeon.
It is.
Did you find one?
I did.
Where?
In the Coppermind. It's Aeon Oid, but it doesn't have a definition. It doesn't have like a meaning behind it. So it's listed as an Aeon, but the meaning is unknown.
You're right. I missed that one. I searched, and I think I was looking for Hoey rather than Oid. So that's probably why. But yeah, interesting that we don't. I assume. What do you think it would be representing?
Broken,
or like insanity.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something along those lines.
Make it canon, Brandon. Broken insanity. Okay, and then we get a very important line that most people are gonna brush over.
Yes, I saw this one too, and I loved it. I love when Brandon does like throw something right at the beginning.
Yep. That
you're just not gonna notice. You're just like brushing over, but becomes so important, relevant later.
Yeah.
You know?
So they're passing some Hoid, and
says most seem to be repeating words and phrases to themselves, a mantra to accompany their suffering.
So you have one going, Domai. Domai, Domai. You have another one going, stop, 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 make it stop. And then you have a very important one someone saying, so beautiful, once so very beautiful.
And that's just so it's a Hoid mantra.
Yep.
And basically every Hoid we see has a different mantra.
Yep.
You know, and some of them, again, break my heart, you know. But this one, that's just his mantra is like so beautiful, once so very beautiful. And it's just his like mindless rambling.
We don't notice it now, but like, what would he be talking about?
Yeah.
And Raoden later in the book realizes that he's talking about Elantris itself, which means that this person knew Elantris as being beautiful, once so very beautiful. Long story short, this guy was an Elantrian before the Riode.
Yes.
Which becomes a very important plot point later in the book.
But only to the extent, like, I wish, because we don't learn a lot from him, because he's been a Hoid. Like, we don't learn a lot that progresses this story.
Sure.
We do learn stuff, like, that progresses the Cosmere, but not necessarily this story in itself, because they tried to get answers out of him of, like, what's wrong with Aeon Dor, this and this and that. But he's so far gone. He's probably been Hoid for, like, 8 years.
10 years.
Maybe, yeah.
If he was an Elantrian before, which he was,
yes,
then yeah, how long did he last?
How long did he last? Probably not very long, because we know that there was an upheaval and an overthrow, and they like burned a lot of the Elantrians and like hurt all of them and like threw them in. So he might have snapped
pretty quickly.
You know.
Anyways, very cool foreshadowing, like not really foreshadowing, but very cool that we get it so early in the book to be like a pretty big plot point later in the book.
Yeah.
So had to point that out. Raoden then starts musing about his life outside of Elantris. And he starts dropping some names, which become great characters throughout the book. But he's wondering if his friends are still continuing their meetings. And we know these meetings are basically Raoden and his friends were trying to overthrow.
Yeah, they're basically plotting. The word's not mutiny, a coup d'etat, basically.
Yeah, a coup. Like they're trying to fix the
ruling system.
Yes, the ruling system in Erelon. So we get Kiine,
which should be Kiine.
It should be Kiine, but Kiine, I like Kiine better.
I do too.
Which has Aeon Ki or Kai, which means justice. Which we learn that is like a really cool connection to Kiine's past.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to re-emphasize that if we haven't hit on it enough, if you have not already read this book, don't listen to this podcast yet. Go read the book first, because we're going to spoil a lot of things for you.
Yeah.
If you haven't finished the Cosmere, that's fine. We will put spoiler warnings at the beginning of each. You should have already gotten this week's spoiler warning.
Yep.
But we're going to put spoiler warnings at the beginning of each episode for what other books in the Cosmere that we will be talking about. But there will always be spoilers for the current book that we are talking about.
Yes.
So we see Kiine here, and his name is Justice.
Yeah,
like his
Aeon
name is Justice. But we also know that Kiine is the pirate Driok Crushthroat.
Crushthroat. Yep.
And Driok having Aeon Rio, meaning punishment and retribution. And so you see
That's so cool.
Kiine being justice, and you see Driok being like punishment and retribution. And I love
it's so
good.
It's so cool. We'll get more into Kiine's backstory as it comes up, but I love his backstory. Yeah. And honestly, I would love like a short story of like him as Crushthroat. Yeah, as Driok Crushthroat. I would love that. Brandon, make it happen. I make a lot of demands
on Brandon
from Brandon
for someone who has like 25 followers on Spotify. You're making a lot of demands here.
We'll get there. Okay, we'll get there. Next we have Royale,
which is Aeon Ial.
Yep, and it means
Or I ale. I don't know.
uh,
I ale. I don't know.
whatever, which means
I don't know how to
helpfulness,
pronounce any of these.
helpfulness/aid.
Which that's royal. You know, as far as like his relationship with Serene, royal is
And
helpfulness,
yep.
helpfulness, and aid.
I'm
You looking for one for Lukel? Because it doesn't exist.
No, I know that doesn't exist, and we're actually going to get into that. Okay, and then so to get his mind off of his life outside of Elantris,
Right.
he starts looking at the city itself, and there was a line here that I thought was interesting because I don't think it's mentioned really anywhere else. It says that it was a city of pure white and gold.
I know. I saw that too. I was like, ooh, interesting.
So, a couple thoughts there. One, it could have been known as like the city of white and gold because Elantrians can just make gold.
Okay.
They can just gold. So that's one thing. So it's like maybe they're talking about gold in like the wealth.
I don't know. It says 10 years ago the city had shone with its own mystical brightness, a city of pure white and gold. So I feel like it's shining gold. But we also heard it earlier as being described as
Silvery. It shines like a silvery fire in the night.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it's shining gold. And it's just weird that like I think this is the only spot in the whole Cosmere that Elantris is described as white and gold.
Yes.
So I don't know.
It's also interesting because we see Aeon Dio later in this chapter. It's the one that Galadin draws.
Yeah.
And it means metal or gold.
Yeah.
So that was interesting too.
So I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
Whenever we see colors like that, it always ties back into the Cosmere because for some reason colors are important in the Cosmere.
Yeah, shards and investiture usually have some color associated with them. So like Stormlight looks like blue mist. When like someone's holding Stormlight, it looks like blue mist is coming off of them, and that's honors investiture evaporating back into the spiritual realm.
Right.
So whenever colors are mentioned, we always have to look into it because it could mean something. After we researched this for quite a while,
this is what we've come up with.
It doesn't shine gold. So, long story short, why does it say gold in this chapter? Because like there's nothing we can find, and we looked that would like tie Elantris to the color gold.
To the color gold. No.
None at all. So, early Brandon,
or if you guys have any thoughts or want to like chime in, feel free to let us know what your thoughts are on why the city is
described as white and gold. Because we couldn't find anything. Yeah.
We found a lot about investiture though.
Yeah, but we're not gonna jump into that. I was like, maybe we'll post a short clip of TikTok of us freaking out over stuff. But anyways, let's move on.
All right.
Elantris.
All right, moving on.
Okay. Here we go. It starts talking about Elantris again and how no one knows what caused the Reod. And all that.
Those that theorized have been caused by gods. Living as gods themselves, it says the pre-Reod Elantrians had allowed other religions in Erelon. But the beauty of Elantris, the power of its inhabitants, had kept the general population from converting to Shu Kiseg. And then it says this line, it says, why seek an unseen deity when you had gods living before you?
Right.
And I thought that was super interesting and super cool because it kind of ties into Warbreaker because they kind of have the same philosophy.
Yeah.
When you get into Warbreaker, you're into Teller, the court of the gods is that same thing. It's like they worship them because they're there and they're powerful. And so those are their gods.
Yeah. It's a lot easier to believe in something you can see than something you can't.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think it's interesting that it said it kept the general population from converting to Shu Kiseg.
Yes.
Which made me question, like, how old is Shu Dirith and Shu Korath?
Like, how long ago did they split?
Yeah.
It's been a while. I think they still use Shu Kiseg just as kind of like a lump general term.
Okay.
And so, like, because we see, I think we see in Sereni's chapter, don't we see the king use the word Shukiseg?
Yes.
Or does he say?
No, he does.
No, he says Shukora.
No, he does mention.
He says, I already believe in Shukoroth, priest. We serve the same god. And then Hrathen says Shudireth is the only true form of Shukiseg. But I think it's a form of Shukiseg. So I think they still use Shukiseg as like a lump term.
Okay. So nothing soup from my nothing came from my question. That's fine. And then we see, which I was kind of critical on Brandon in our last episode.
Yes, you were.
I was saying that we don't hear about the crevice that causes the Riode
until right before they figure it out.
But I'm going to eat those words. Right here it says, Raoden remembered the earth itself had shattered in an enormous chasm appearing in the south, all of Arelon quaking with the destruction. Elantris had lost its glory.
And Brandon tells you right there, like, with the destruction, Elantris had lost its glory. Like, he literally lays it out.
Like, this is what caused the Riode.
Yes. If you know, like, if you're on your reread and you know, he literally spells it out right there. But reading through it for the first time, I didn't see it. I don't know if you guys saw it. I didn't see it.
Better. I've read this book. This is my 5th time reading this book. And I don't remember this line in any of my reads. This was the first time I had noticed it. And that's what's so great about this podcast. Because I'm going to find stuff that, even though this is my 5th time reading Elantris, this will be, like, I will find stuff.
It's also, to be fair, your first time reading Elantris.
True. I've only listened to it audiobook style before. But even still.
Mm-hmm.
So, very interesting. And then finally, we get to the market.
Okay.
Unless you had anything else.
No, I got nothing.
Okay.
Moving on to the market.
We get to the market. Really not much here to talk about. Galadon is just introducing Raoden to the areas that each of the 3 gang leaders rule over. So he's just mentioning how, like, it's just as dark and falling apart as the rest of Elantris.
Yeah, and they're talking. It's Sheor's territory.
Yes.
And so Raoden asks about Sheor, like, who is Sheor? Tell me about Sheor. And Galadon, and this I just kind of found funny and interesting. It says, Sheor is one who finds pleasure in controlling others, and for some reason the most wild and morally corrupt Elantrians find their way to him. And I just think it's so interesting that the people outside of Sheor's band have crafted this identity, because we know that's not true. Yeah. We know that's not what's happening in Sheor's band.
No.
And so it's so crazy to me that the people outside have crafted that identity from what? Because I don't think Sheor's men are talking to anybody.
And I don't think anyone has seen Sheor.
They obviously haven't.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that is their description of him. So
yeah. Do you think, I mean, I guess for context, Sheor's a little girl. And Sheor's not her name.
I can't remember.
I can't remember her name. We'll get to it when we meet her.
She was a spoiled princess on the outside of Elantris.
Do you think she chose the name Sheor, or do you think other people just gave her the name Sheor?
I don't know.
Because we know that
Sheo
means change or transformation, but that doesn't really fit anything we learn about Sheor.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we'll dive deeper into it when we actually meet Sheor on screen.
Cool.
So yeah, they talk about it a little bit, and then Raoden wants to go see the other places. So they go to the university and the palace, which actually border one another. They're right next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn that Karada and Aendin have a very uneasy truce.
Yes.
And that they still, like, post guards along the border and everything. Interesting thing here. Doesn't have anything to do with the story, but I saw it and I checked on it. It talks about them climbing up to flat-roofed buildings.
Right.
A lot. And the thing it says is that Elantrians liked it because they could have, like, rooftop gardens or whatever. But if you go back to the Elantris map at the beginning of the book, not a single roof on the map is flat. They're all peaked.
Can you see that much detail on this map?
I mean, yeah, you could look at the roofs. They're all peaked. Now, that doesn't really matter, but it does bring up an interesting thing because we know these maps are from Nas. Do you remember who Nas is?
Yeah, he's isn't he Chris's companion?
Yeah. So Chris is the scholar. She researches investiture, and she has Nas as her companion, and he's the one that compiles or draws all the maps that we see in these books. So also this writing down here in the that's Nas's writing.
Okay.
It's his thing. So Nas, step up your game, dude.
Yeah.
There's obviously some flat roofs in Elantris. What the heck?
Fair enough.
Not important. I just wanted to point it out.
But yeah, so they're in the palace section or close to it. I don't know if they actually enter Kurata's territory.
I doubt it.
Because they say that Kurata is pretty protective of her territory. She doesn't really allow people in.
No.
And for good reason. We know what Kurata's doing. We know she's got a lot of altruistic motives.
Yeah. She's keeping the kids safe.
Yeah. And so understandable.
Yep. So they talk a bit about her, and we learn that she actually has tried to escape Elantris 3 times before. And she always gets caught near the palace, which is just a little precursor foreshadowing. And eventually Raoden will help her get into the palace.
Yes.
So,
but Raoden's like thinking here, like, why is she, trying to get into the palace? Galadon's like, most people think she intends to assassinate King Iadon.
Yeah.
And Raoden's like, why? Like, what would that accomplish?
He can't think of a single thing that it would accomplish to do that.
And so I'm like, just, I wrote in there, I was like, pragmatism from the damned.
Yeah.
Like, because he's just like, these people are living in damnation.
Yeah.
And King Iadon is the one who put them there. So Raoden's thinking about this, like, logically, like, what would that accomplish? And then Galadon's like, well, yeah, we're sitting in damnation thanks to him. Like, so he's like, revenge, discord, bloodlust, all very good reasons when you're already damned, Kolo.
Yeah. So, they go on to then move over to Eondin and talk about him a little bit. He's over in the university section. And we learn that he's kind of set himself up as like a false king.
Yes.
For Elantris.
He holds fake court. He does all this stuff.
It's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I think the part of the reason he's doing all this is that he's partially insane or something.
He's chosen insanity, though.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is he has chosen to embrace insanity rather than whatever else there is to have in Elantris.
Yep. And then, they talk about him for a little bit. Galadon says that he claims to have been a baron on the outside world. And Raoden was like, well, I don't recognize that name. And Raoden would recognize a baron's name.
Right.
So Raoden pretty quickly clocks that, like, he's probably not royalty, or if he is, he changed his name.
Yeah. He's like, he's obviously not who he says he is. He's either not royalty or he changed his name.
Yep.
They also go on and find a well.
Yep. A single well in all of Elantris. And Raoden's like, well, how can that be? And Galadon's like, well,
magic. Indoor plumbing.
Yeah. He says, indoor plumbing, Suli, courtesy of Eondor magic. Which I was like, how would this work? Because we know they can create water.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a lot more to indoor plumbing than just, here's some water, So
I don't think if you're looking at Eondor, you're going to have, like, a pipe or a faucet, but I think you could inscribe an Aeon to create water and have it be a touch Aeon to where you touch it and it creates water.
Yeah, but that would only be for Elantrians. And we know...
Because an Elantrian has to fuel an inscribed Aeon.
Yeah. So, like, if you had, like, Aeontia inscribed somewhere, a normal person couldn't go up and activate it.
Okay.
Pretty sure. So it would only work for Elantrians.
But wasn't it just Elantrians who lived in Elantris?
Well, Galadon lived there.
Yeah,
If you have
with his
family, it would
Elantrian
be
dad.
yeah, but like if he's, you know, using the restroom and needs to flush the toilet, hey dad, can you come flush my crap real quick?
Well, I don't think you're thinking indoor plumbing, and you think, oh, that's where they're going to the bathroom. They probably have somewhere else to go to the bathroom that doesn't
Okay.
involve indoor plumbing. That probably just like
Okay.
has a hole.
But they also need like drinking water.
Yeah.
So do you need your Elantrian relative to get you water every time you want to drink? I'm just saying
Let us know what you think.
the logistics of indoor plumbing in Elantris and Elantris, it's I don't think it works as well as he's
As
implying
this
here.
is, yeah, because you would need plumbing.
You would need
Like, you don't just need the water, you would need plumbing. And if they can do it in Elantris with Elantrian magic, you could do it in Kai with plumbing.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if like by indoor plumbing he's just meaning like water for bathing and drinking would be the two big ones.
Yeah.
We'll ignore the whole bathroom situation. But like washing and drinking, I guess an Elantrian could like fill up a tank
Yeah.
with water and then they can get water that way.
I mean, it's the same thing as like he says indoor plumbing, but all they're saying is that people didn't have to go draw water from a well.
Right.
And so if an Elantrian can just fill a barrel as opposed to going and drawing water for the well,
sure.
quote unquote, indoor plumbing.
It's just interesting that Galadon calls it indoor plumbing.
Yeah.
And this might just be an early Brandon thing where like I don't think plumbing is like a big thing on Cell
Yeah.
at this age.
Yeah. No,
So
I'm going to agree with you there.
that's all I was.
That's it. That's all of it.
So he's asking like why even have a well then? And he was saying that like it was for religious ceremonies.
Yeah, because some of the religious ceremonies for the Elantrian like religion required water that was drawn freshly from a river.
Yeah, which like I don't know if we'll ever get to learn about because they ate all the scrolls. Like there's so much about Elantrian's past that we probably will never know unless Brandon writes in a secret library that they find, you know? So
yeah. But we do get to learn from that well that the Aradel River does flow right below Elantris.
Yep.
Which again, that has the Aeon Avery, which is unity, is same as Arelon.
Okay. So they go on to notice some Seons floating around. And it says here, Galadon nodded. When a Seon's master gets taken by the Sheod, the Seon itself is driven mad. There's a number of them floating through the city. Now, I had a little bit of like questioning here. So what would happen to a Seon if the master was given an Elantrian funeral? So we know that Seons are connected through their spirit web to their master.
Right. So for those of you who don't know, there is a Seon bond, and it's similar to like a Spren bond on Roshar. It's obviously not the same,
but it's very, very similar.
Very similar.
Yes.
And so they're tied very closely with those, and that's why when they go through, you know, the Sheod, their Seon also post Riod goes insane.
Yeah.
It's like almost like what happened to Syl when her first Night Radiant died. But it's probably closer to when the Knights Radiant forsake their oaths. Like these Seons are basically Deadeyes.
Yeah. I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
I think the bond is just a little different. I don't think, because we do get either, I don't know if it's in this book or in the Coppermine, but we know that like if a Seon's master dies, the Seon doesn't like.
Right. If it dies without even like, because when somebody's master dies, they can instruct like, hey, when I die, go serve so and so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they don't, in the book on screen, they just assume that it would choose a new master, but we actually don't see any like confirmation of that.
So do you think it would? So like if you were an Elantrian, you had a Seon, you chose an Elantrian funeral, which, for those of you who don't remember, an Elantrian funeral is basically when Elantrian is like ready to die, they can go to Devotion's Perpendicularity and basically get transferred to the spiritual realm.
The cognitive realm. Where they are then promptly destroyed and probably sent to the spiritual realm.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah, I actually read that on like Words of Brandon, that like
Okay.
that perpendicularity, when they go through, their consciousness is transferred to the cognitive realm. Kind of like we see in Mistborn's Secret History, when somebody dies, they go to the cognitive realm for a time,
Okay.
and then go on to the spiritual realm. Same thing happens here. However, the cognitive realm on Cell, the cellish subastral, dangerous as all get out.
Very, very dangerous.
Because of Devotion and Dominion being trapped there, and all of their
investiture it's just making
trapped
a
in the
big,
cognitive realm.
a big storm.
Yeah.
And it's very dangerous to travel through. Okay. That makes sense. But basically that's what an Elantrian funeral is.
Yes, because like we already said, Elantrians can get like tired, and like the mental can get rough. So they can choose to basically move on.
Yeah. So do you think like those Sions just go and find a new master?
I assume so. I assume if an Elantrian is going to choose to go have a funeral, it's not something that ever happens like suddenly or like on accident. Like they choose to go have a funeral. I assume they would tell their Sion who to go serve.
Okay. Now, let's say the Elantrian was Rioed, and the Sion had lost its cognitive function. It's a Rioed Sion, right? Just bobbing up and down.
Mm-hmm.
Then that Elantrian goes and has an Elantrian funeral. Does the Sion then regain his, his cognitive abilities and like becomes sane again? Or does it continue as a Rioed Sion?
That's a question. I almost think it would regain. I almost think it would like heal.
Okay.
Because if it loses its connection to a Rioed Elantrian, I think it could heal.
Right, because I guess what you're saying is, since the Sion is connected to that Elantrian via their spirit web, as soon as that Elantrian moves on, the Sion's spirit web is no longer connected to the broken spirit web of the Elantrian.
Right. Because I mean we see Sions heal at the end of the book.
Uh-huh.
Like we see Sion Ayin heal at the end of the book when Raoden gets healed.
Yeah.
I imagine him passing on would have had the same effect.
So whether their master is healed or dies, the Sion would heal.
That's my headcanon.
Okay. I like it.
All right.
I like it. Okay, moving on.
So they keep going through Elantris, and Galadon looks up, and Galadon's a farmer, so he looks up, he's like, hey, there's a storm coming, it's gonna rain. And Raoden's like, doesn't look like rain. He's like, trust me, Suli, it's gonna rain. And so Raoden's like, okay, well, where are we sleeping? And Galadon's like, pick a house, Suli. Like,
yeah,
it's probably gonna be uninhabited. And so Raoden then like thinks like, we slept in a random house last night. He's saying we're gonna sleep in a random house tonight. And he's like, Galadon, where do you live?
Yeah.
And so then they end up going to Galadon's house.
Yeah, which honestly is quite the assumption that Galadon lives anywhere.
Yeah.
Because if you're not part of a gang, the people we've seen in Elantris that aren't part of gangs kind of just live everywhere. Like, we don't see people really take up houses. Yeah, they don't take up residence anywhere. So it's kind of an assumption, I thought, to be like, where's your home? You know?
Well, it's kind of an assumption, but also Raoden's been in Elantris for 2 days, and so he's used to people living in houses. So.
True. You're right. So they go to Galadon's place of residence, and Raoden goes, books! Yay!
So they basically went through this wine cellar that wasn't a wine cellar. They walked, went through this wine cellar that wasn't a wine cellar, and ended up in this study basically. And there's books on the wall and all this. And this again, we get to see a little bit of like Galadon's story not lining up.
Yeah.
His background, because Raoden's like, how did you ever find this place? You know, like this, it was like almost a hidden entrance. Like it was not an apparent thing. And Galadon just shrugs. He's like, I stumbled upon it. Like, okay, Galadon.
We know.
No, you didn't.
It's incorrect because we know Galadon's father was an Elantrian pre-Riode, and this was Galadon's father's study. Now, a couple
I
of
want to
interesting.
know. I don't think we ever find out what happened to Galadon's father post Riode. Oh no, because he left before.
Yeah.
So yeah, he never experienced it.
He chooses an Elantrian burial before the Riode
right.
hits. But I'm gonna have to eat my words
Again?
and I think you were correct about Elantrians and the cold. It says here
they're cold-blooded.
It says here the air was drier here, even though it was below ground, and much cooler as well, which means that they can feel the change of temperature.
Okay.
Which my whole thing was that they can't feel any other temperature than what they're feeling. And yours was like that they're just cold-blooded, so the cold doesn't affect them as much.
Yeah.
So I think you were right there.
All right.
It also goes on to say that the walls were painted with aeons.
Okay.
All over, which I thought was interesting because we know that, like, even if you paint an aeon or carve an aeon or draw an aeon, not like in the air,
but if you do it on a surface,
it's still a valid aeon and you can still funnel door through it.
Right.
So I wrote a couple of aeons that I think were probably on the wall, and I'm interested to see what you think the effect would be if like they were activated.
Okay.
So I have Aeon Seo, which is intelligence / learning. Do you think Elantrians could boost cognitive ability by activating that kind of Aeon?
Aeon Seo?
Yeah, like intelligence Aeon. Do you think, like, what effect would like drawing Aeon Seo have?
That's so interesting. Because we know that Elantrian's cognitive ability is increased purely by becoming an Elantrian.
Do you think you can just become smarter?
I no.
But what effect do you think it would have?
Dude, I don't know.
Do you think all Aeons
have an Aeon Door effect?
Like physical, like a visceral effect in the physical realm? Do you think it like actually can change something, or is it only certain Aeons?
I want to feel like every Aeon would have an effect. Like every Aeon that has been discovered would have some type of effect.
Okay.
But there's also like Aeon Ela.
Focus or
center. Like what would that?
I assume it would be like making something more precise. So like if you were to draw,
because we can like you can do an Aeon and then you can do like qualifying Aeons around.
Yes, you can. You can chain Aeons together. So if you did like the Aeon for water and then Aeon Ella, and you had specifications of like, you know, instead of doing this much water, let's focus it using Aeon Ella and do only this much water, or with this much pressure, or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume Aeon Ela is one of the like qualifying Aeons for like healing.
Oh yeah,
where you have to like
focus on something. So you can say like Aeon for healing, then Aeon Ella, and add whatever the lines are for leg, or this muscle, or whatever. I like that, but that still begs the question on what Aeon Seo would do. Meaning intelligence or learning.
Yeah, I don't
know. But another one I had here was Aeon Ayin, which means wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Same sort of thing. What effect would that have?
Yeah. These aren't Aeons that you know were on the walls. These are the ones you assume.
These are, if I were to guess what Aeons were painted on the wall.
In a study,
these would be it. And then I also had actually Aeon Ella for the focus. I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
if you could use Aeon to like Adderall yourself, you know? Like, is Aeon Adderall for people? Could they be like, hey, let me focus on this, pop Aeon real quick, and like they would become hyper focused on something?
It's in,
Who knows?
who knows?
I thought that was a fun little.
That is fun. I enjoy that.
And then so moving on, Raoden starts talking about Aeons, and he's like, we can learn about Aeons. This is
from
huge.
these books.
This is huge. Like we can learn about the old Elantrian magic. And then Galadon is kind of just like,
the Aeons. That's what he says.
yeah, the Aeons.
Brandon's like, we can learn about the Aeons, and he's like, the Aeons, and Brandon's like, dude, the magic of Elantris.
Yeah.
They say that before the Riode, Elantrians could create powerful magics just by drawing Aeons.
And then Galadon's like, you mean like this? And he draws Aeon Deo, or Dio, which means gold or metal, which I almost was wondering, like, Galadon doesn't know everything about Aeons as much as, like, Raoden does.
Right.
But he obviously knows Aeon Dio. Do you think Galadon, like, practiced it because he, like, wanted a bunch of gold? Do you think he was just like, I need more money, so he practiced Aeon Dio?
That's hilarious. I hadn't thought about that.
Because we know, like, to draw the Aeon, you have to be precise.
You have to be precise. Again, oh, actually, I don't know. Is Aeon Dio
super complex?
Yeah, how basic
I
is
don't
it?
know. But even if it's not, like, he would have had to study it at least a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like a square. It's not that complex.
Where was Galadon's farm?
Who's in Duladin?
Right. So it wasn't because Dio is also an Aeon we see for like Dio plantation.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like that was.
I think all of the
I think it's different,
plantations
though.
are in Erelon.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say he like worked on
Yeah.
Dio plantation or anything. Anyways, I thought that was funny.
Yep. And it says Galadon smiled at him through the glowing symbol that hovered in the air between them.
So you get like a cliffhanger here from Brandon, which like obviously on a reread we know that Aeons don't work.
Yeah.
But here, if this was your first time reading, you'd be like, holy crap. Like they can use magic.
Yeah.
But they can't.
But they can't.
So oh well. And that's the end of Raoden's chapter. Do you add anything else?
No, I think that's it. And that was I think as we're going through this book, we're all going to come to realize that Raoden's chapters are kind of the most...
They're beefy.
Intensive, yeah, like content heavy. I think we're going to move pretty quickly through Serene and Crathan's chapter. We might still have to break this episode up into 2 parts. If we do, it'll be right after our words of Brandon.
Right after... What did he say?
Which is what we're going to get into right now.
What did he say? We're going to get into our segment called What Did He Say? This is a segment we like to do here where each week we swap back and forth on finding a words of Brandon, and one of us asks the questions, the other one answers the questions, and whoever answers the question gets a point for that week. So currently the score is Jake 1, Jax 0, and it is Jackson's turn to ask the question. Okay.
So yeah, my turn. Jake, did you already tell him where the points stand?
Yes.
Okay.
1-0. I'm winning.
I tried to get him one this week that he wouldn't be able to get another point on.
Oh,
but it's an answerable question.
Okay.
Questioner. This comes from a holiday signing on December 12th of 2015 in Orem, Utah.
Nice.
I don't know. It's not really a big event, but it just says holiday signing.
Cool.
So the questioner says, if you were to place yourself in the Knights Radiant, what rating order would you be? This is Brandon asking Brandon what rating order would he put himself in.
Okay. And he actually specifies an order?
He does.
Okay. What radiant order would Brandon be? Let me pull up the orders because there's a lot of them. Okay. So he could have said Windrunner, Skybreaker, Dustbringer, Edge Dancer, Truth Watcher, Lightweaver, Elsecaller, Will Shaper, Stoneward, or Bondsmith. Those are, so it's one of those. I have a 1 in 10 shot.
Yes, you do.
That's basically what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm.
Are any of these going to be really good at writing books quickly? Or does he just like a certain one? My guess is that Brandon would probably want to be a Windrunner.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a toss-up.
It's a
honestly.
toss-up.
I personally, I think I would want to be a Windrunner.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't we all?
Right. And so, like, that's just the logic I'm putting is, I want to be a Windrunner. Windrunner is probably one of the more fleshed out orders.
Right.
So it's just hard because Brandon knows all the orders so intimately that, like,
well,
he
and
would get to choose.
There's so many that we haven't even seen.
Yeah.
Like anything.
So it's a 1 in 10 guess.
It's a 1 in 10
I would want
guess.
to be a Windrunner.
And it would have been really mean of me to like give you one where he answers like something that we haven't even really seen on screen.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've met all of the
heralds.
Well, yeah, but all of like I think we have a radiant from each order at the very least.
Probably. I couldn't tell you for sure. Do we see any Will Shapers?
Oh, I don't know.
I know we see Stonewards, Else'Callers, Lightweavers, Truth Watchers, Edge Dancers, Dustbringers, Skybreakers, Windrunners, and Bondsmiths. I don't know if we see any Will Shapers. I could find it real quick.
If you guys know of any Will Shapers, drop it in the comments and let us know what we're missing here.
Notable Will Shapers. Eshonai and Venli.
Okay.
They both bond the same brand.
Yeah, so she's not a Stoneward. Because that's the only one, like the only surge that we really see Venli use is...
No, so she's a Will Shaper.
Yeah.
Anyways, did I get it right?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
0 points for Jacob this week. There's actually 2 answers that he gives.
Oh, so I was just wrong.
Wrong and wrong.
Dang it.
So... Brandon says, that is a hard question. I think the best fit would be Lightweaver, but it could be Bondsmith depending on what mood I'm in.
Dude, so like the top 3 that we see on screen, and I chose the one.
You really had like a 1 in 3 chance. Actually, you had a 2 in 3 chance.
Oh, that's terrible.
L for you.
That's so bad.
I think you should lose your point for that.
No. I earned that point. And so score is still 1-0.
1-0. I'll tie it up next week.
Hopefully Jax can come back next week. And that was our segment. What did he say?
What did he say?
Part 2 of this episode is out now.